Welcome once again to Raw Boxing TV. My name is Ranger. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'd like to encourage you to follow me on Twitter at Raw Boxing TV. Post your questions there and I will try to reply with video as best as I can. Yuriorkis Gamboa versus Terence Crawford. You know what, guys? I don't know how a lot of y'all don't give credit to Gamboa. I don't know how a lot of y'all don't give credit to Crawford. If you go through both of these fighters' videos on YouTube, you see a lot of negativity and a lot of positives. Why do I say there's negatives? You know, a lot of the boxing fans, I'm tired of saying this, don't honestly realize or understand a certain style of fighting, and so they choose to criticize it. When Terence Crawford decides to be a boxer, he gets criticized because he doesn't engage as much. When he decides to go at it, he gets criticized because how can he be a boxer yet he's exposing himself for danger going at it toe to toe? So there's two nests but nowhere to lay the egg. That's sort of like the way that HBO's working. Or works. Why do I say this? Because it's the same thing they've done with Gamboa. When Gamboa first came from Cuba, first started in the pro, he came hungry. He was fighting prison-style wars. You know what I mean? He was just driving through people, just running through them. But in the way he was getting dropped, a lot of them due to out of balance, a lot of them due to the fact that when you put yourself out there, you're open to get caught. Nevertheless, he got out. When Gamboa decided to be, you know, I'm going to be more of the Cuban fighter. I'm going to box a little. I'm going to start, you know, putting rounds on me. Then now all of a sudden, people like Max Kellerman say, well, this is not the Gamboa we fell in love with. This is not the Gamboa that's going to be able to sell a pay-per-view in the future. Again, two nests, but nowhere to lay the egg. If he fights like a boxer, he's criticized. If he fights like a brawler, he's also criticized. That's why I always encourage fans, do your own analogies of the fighters, of the fights. Do not go by what this media people say, because they contradict themselves way too much. Nevertheless, let's get into the fight. I'm going to start with Terence Crawford, who the first time I saw him fight was against Brady Prescott. And I was impressed right off the bat. I liked how he kept his cool, his composure during that fight. I liked his counter-punching ability. And I like he doesn't talk that much. That's one of the things I like the most. And another thing I like the most, he's from Omaha, Nebraska. I've been there myself. I like it. I've also been to Grand Island, Nebraska. I like to send a shout out to Ricardo. He works at the Mimi's Cafe, I believe it's not Mimi's Cafe, Mama's Cafe or something like that. Great food there. If you're ever in Grand Island, Nebraska, look for that spot, and you're gonna love it. Terence Crawford, it's a fighter that, although, you know, he's skilled, he just went overseas and beat the guy over there. Ricky Burns brought the WBO belt over here. Terence Crawford is a guy that needs, now that he's a champion, the big fight here in America. His country, and this is a big fight in my opinion. If I had to give any advice to Terence Crawford versus Gamboa, the key to victory for Terence Crawford versus Gamboa, I know a lot of y'all saying, well, Gamboa has only fought, you know, 2 times in 2 years, you know, 24 rounds in 2 years. We'll get to that in a minute. But the key to victory with Gamboa is definitely keep the fight on the out. Take advantage of the natural 135-pounder Yuriorkis Gamboa, of the much shorter fighter. Take advantage of his stature and use your boxing. Use your stick and move. Use your counter-punching ability versus Gamboa, and you should have an easier fight than a lot of people think you're going to have. Why do I say keep the fight on the out? Although Terence Crawford tends to go at it from time to time with some fighters, Terence Crawford is not an inside fighter. He doesn't dominate the inside game. He's not very good in the inside game. I would say he's not even good at the inside game. I say he's fair at the inside game, and I'll say he's good at mid-range. I think Terence Crawford, though, dominates very well the long-range fighting. If he can keep you out there at the end of his punches, you're going to have a dark night fighting Terence Crawford. If Terence Crawford can stick and move versus Gamboa, never give Gamboa a chance to implement an attack. Never give Gamboa a chance to get into the mid-range or even the inside game. It should be a very good night of boxing for him. Not to mention the fact that he is fighting a fighter that, although possesses a lot of skills, one of the most skillful boxers in the game, whether you want to admit it or not, that's up to you. Although he packs a punch up to a certain extent at this weight division, he is a fighter that unfortunately has not fought as much in the last 24 months. Lots of things that you guys don't know. Lots of things I'm not allowed to share in my videos about this fighter. But the one thing I will tell you is that there is a cold war versus Yuriorkis Gamboa in one of these co-promotion companies. Definitely, Top Rank is a venom in boxing. After the incident with Brandon Rios, where Gamboa did not show up to the press conference because he did not have a contract, because his requests were not being met as far as the post-weight limits and all that stuff, things went down south up to a certain level for Gamboa. Now they are trying, what they've tried to do is didactically break him from the business aspect of boxing. Let me see who's interrupting me. It's actually my wife. Give me a second. Hello? Hello?
Hey,
what?
You got my text message?
Yeah, what's up?
Do you still have the H&M gift card, or did it expire?
No, I don't have none of that. I'm doing a video right now.
Can you check your phone on the Wrap app?
Give me a second. You'll see what I gotta go through YouTube. No, I don't have none of that. Nope.
Do you check when it says gift card on the test in your wallet? In the app it says wallet.
Let me see. I hope you know you're taking a lot of time on my video. I'm being recorded right now while I'm talking to you on the phone. And there's nothing that you want. It's in my phone.
Alright, bye.
Bye. Sorry about that, YouTube. Little husband and wife time there for y'all. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, they have tried to break him from the inside. The business aspect of it. You had fighters running from him. You had Mikey Garcia talking about, I want Gamboa, and then giving you the excuse of money. Then Gamboa goes on national television and say, well, if that's what he wants, let's get it done. Right after Gamboa says that and eliminates all sorts of money excuse, Top Rank jumps in and protects Mikey by saying the fight was dead on arrival. It was never considered. And so another fight falls through. Juan Manuel Lopez challenged Yuriorkis Gamboa recently on ESPN radio, I believe it was. Gamboa said, you know, in a respectful way, you know, Juanma is a good fighter, but due to his past fights, it's not a fight that can give me the type of glory I'm looking for, or that's worth it, to be honest with you. And he said it in a way without offending Juanma or even hurting his feelings. So the search continued until they landed with Terence Crawford, somebody who has the same management as Mikey Garcia. They still have no contract, but the fight seems to be on its way. Yuriorkis Gamboa, it's a fighter that I don't know how y'all don't see the talent. Even if he hasn't fought in a while, he can still get in there and find ways to win. The last fight he had, I tell you what, and I know why you guys don't get it, because a lot of y'all don't know about boxing, but the fighter he fought from Colombia was a very well technically sounded fighter, an undefeated fighter. Just because you don't know him here don't mean he's a nobody. A very defensive fighter that fought Gamboa in his last fight. A good counterpuncher, somebody who was well aware of Gamboa's boxing abilities and power. Well, in that fight, it wasn't a very packed fight. Why? For the same simple reason that we have two counterpunchers trying to counterpunch each other. And you can have the argument that Gamboa was trying to burn rounds due to the fact of his inactivity. Gamboa, you could have the argument that decided, you know what, I've already noticed that I can kind of outbox this guy. Not very easy, but I can outbox him. So let me just go ahead and burn some rust out of me. So he did, 12 rounds. The keys to victory with Gamboa in this fight is the first thing he needs to do is bite down on that mouthpiece, take a step forward, and continue to fight Crawford on the inside game. No matter what Crawford does, try to stay at the mid-range and inside game. If Crawford ties up, you have shorter arms. Pull out. Do what you did to Al Seeger, somebody who kept tightening you and tightening you. You cracked his jaw. Gamboa cannot afford to fight an outside game with Terence Crawford due to the simple fact that size advantage. Crawford is a natural at that weight division. I have noticed that Gamboa has diminished a little bit in power and speed at 135. That's why I don't agree of him being at 135. I've always thought that his higher weight, to me, where he can perform at his absolute best, was 130. But nevertheless, you got to get the fight where the fight comes up to you. And 135 is the weight, and there they are. Again, if Gamboa is able to... I already know Gamboa has a lot of upper body movement. That's not a secret. You just got to look at his fight. Gamboa, however, needs to stay in the inside. He cannot afford to be on the inside but not be active, but be active in a smart way. The way that you're taught in Cuba. Do not waste punches. Throw a punch when you see an opening. Can Gamboa hurt Crawford? Of course he can. Can Gamboa be hurt by Crawford? Of course he can. This is a fight that I like. And this is a fight that I need to give Yuriorkis Gamboa a lot of credit. Because not every fighter out there, after being on such a long layoff, is going to come back to fight an elite boxer like Gamboa is doing. You know, what are my wishes for Gamboa in the future? I wish that he leaves 50 Cent. When 50 Cent first became a promoter, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I was excited. I thought, well, here's a boxing fan who has money. I'm sure he's going to want to make the fights that us as boxing fans want to see. But the first thing he does is he comes out and he starts fighting with Golden Boy, getting into argument, all thugging it out. And the only thing he's done is hurt his fighters. Because Gamboa, if 50 Cent would have been the type of promoter that was open to work with any promotional companies, Gamboa could have had fights with Golden Boy, Mayweather Promotions, Dan Goosen, Top Rank, all these promotional companies that have fighters in that weight division. But unfortunately, that's not happening. I wish Gamboa leaves 50 Cent and either go to Golden Boy or Mayweather Promotions or any promotional companies that works with every promotional companies. Once Gamboa defeats Terence Crawford, if he does what I said, if he stays on the inside game, mid-range, upper body movement, lots of it. Do not allow that slick fighter to land the jabs and the 1-2 on you. If once Gamboa comes out victorious, I would love to see him fight El Títere Vázquez. And honestly, man, I just don't know what to say other than the fact that I want him out of 50 Cent promotion companies. Like I said in my video in Spanish, I don't know if any of you saw that video, but 50 Cent is treating the boxing business like rapping. I mean, you ain't gonna get your fighter $3 million for a presentation unless he's worth it, or unless he's positioned himself out there. If you get, like I'll say in Gamboa's place, if you get an offer for $700,000 or $800,000 or $1 million, don't look at it like it's being offered to you. Oh man, I would never sing for, $1 million. They gotta give me $3 million. No, you gotta be like, okay, well, Gamboa, he can work with that. 0.8 million. 0.6, $500,000, he can work with that. Let's get the fight done. There's a lot of inside things that cannot be said, but nevertheless. And by the way, the war in Twitter between Mikey and Gamboa, this is not a war. They're actually talking as friends. Mikey and Gamboa no longer have that feud. Mikey's simply saying, come spar me, and Gamboa is saying, Gamboa is saying, I want to spar. Mikey's saying, you know the address, just come. And it's like friends. There is no animosity. Trust me, I already know that. I already found that out. This is just normal. And if Gamboa goes out there to spar Mikey Garcia, I think it'd be great. I think it will be awesome. But who do you think wins this fight? I'm going to tell you that if Gamboa does a lot of sparring preparing to this fight. A lot of sparring. 4-minute, 4.5-minute rounds. 10, 11, 12 rounds. 14 rounds. Lots of it. He can start getting that rust out. It's possible to do it. I know a lot of y'all, no, that's not possible. But y'all don't know what you're talking about. I know. I know what I'm talking about. That's the reason I'm in front of this camera. Talking to almost 2,000 people. If Gamboa burns a lot of sparring, 4.5 minutes to 5-minute rounds, depending on how long the rounds are, you can go from 10 to 12, maybe 14 rounds. He will be, with the right diet, the well-rested, he will be ready for this fight, regardless of how long the layoff is. Don't believe me? Can we go back and talk about Mayweather, who sometimes fought once in a blue moon, but never, ever rested during his training? Well, that's a good example. That's a very good example. If Gamboa does that, and if Gamboa fights mid-range and inside game, I believe he can beat Terence Crawford. I'm a little disappointed that the fight was not in Miami, but I understand up to a certain level that Crawford is the bigger name in this fight, due to Gamboa's inactivity. I just want to say this real quick to the people that have adopted the excuse that's been programmed into their brain by the media. Cubans don't self-fight. I'm going to give you a good example. How can a Cuban self-fight if you're not taking them to where the Cubans are? Lara and Canelo, press conference, San Antonio, Los Angeles, Mexican territory, right? New York, Puerto Rican, Dominican, very little Cuban, and then Puerto Rico. Where's Miami? Why can't you take the Cuban to the Cuban area so he can get the support and the encourage, and he can convince his fans to go out there and buy the fight? Get his fans pumped. Why? Cubans don't self-fight. Well, maybe because you ain't helping it like you help the other people. That's it for now. Drop your comments. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my Twitter at Raw Boxing TV. Till then, I'm out.